always.
Yeah. So, hey, I also wanted to ask Doug. You were talking about your addiction to that stuff. Like, what kind of stuff are you doing now to sort of shift that perspective for yourself?
Well, first of all, my soda and sugar addiction is exactly the reason why I'm teetotal. I don't drink alcohol at all. And the reason I don't is just because if I barely survived a soda addiction, I don't want to imagine what it would be like with alcohol,
Right.
especially somebody who has the addictive genes. And there are some that say that if I do drink, sometimes I'll extend my life. But I've taken the position of, I'd rather die a couple years premature than live a life as an alcoholic.
Yes.
But the things I've done to control my addictions are, first of all, I try meditation. When I'm feeling low, I don't try to eat sugar or eat anything to make me feel better for a temporary period of time. Instead, what I do is I meditate, I do exercise, I go for a walk, and Andy and I did a program last year where I replaced my cravings for sugar and soda with water, and I would drink a lot of water every day. And if that didn't work, then just go for a walk, listen to music while walking, and just do something to take your mind away from the cravings for soda. Yeah. And Andy is very hard on me in boot camp, by the way. He's like a drill instructor.
Actually, I'm a little concerned. You just said Shala. You try to say you haven't had a little nip before the program. Right? You got to
I admit the soda part didn't come out right. I just recognized it too. I was like, did I really just say that? I sounded like Sean Connery.
A little bit. I liked it. I actually liked it. I was like, oh, I like it. Shut up.
Yeah, Sean Connery. That's funny. But, and the thing is, Mark, as you know, and Doug really knows now too, understands that you can coach the heck out of anyone. You can teach them, show them. Unless they really want to do it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what's so amazing about this story. You know what I mean? You've got somebody here that is, relentless and unstoppable. And, that's coming from you, Doug. I mean, you've got a great coach with Andy, but, without you actually taking the actions, I mean, that's a huge thing. And I think a lot of people struggle with that too, because, they sort of think, well, I don't have, that my life isn't set up that way. So I'll never be able to have that thing. And so we just sort of like repeat the same kind of thing, instead of being able to like pause and say, okay, what's not working in my life and how can I change that?
So, and what Doug says, like really cool. And what you asked him, Mark, is perfect. Like it relates to so many people watching this, We had another friend of mine, we interviewed in Melbourne, Australia, lady who had a broken relationship. Heather is her name. She's on Relentless series. Broken relationship, 2 kids. One was involved in some, pretty heavy stuff with drugs and a bit of depression. So she decided to go around Australia in a little van with her son. She did that pretty risky deal going through the outback, but she did it for 6 months, came back, decided I'm going to train to be a nurse. I'm going to create better income, buy my own little house in a country town. And she did all that over 7 years. She's got a little house now in a country town and goes to work 5 minutes away as a nurse. So everything is possible. And she's not famous. No, she's not a millionaire, but she is in her life, and she is in her life because she's got everything she wants.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, we are getting close to time out. Do you want to, just hammer Mark with some questions?
Yeah, Mark, how do you think your story can impact others?
Well, I often think that, people ask me like, why do you do what you do? What is it that you do? What's the why behind you being a director or a writer or an actor or any of that? And I've always said, I just want to inspire people. I want to inspire people to live their dream, because when I was growing up, I didn't have anybody, sort of living outside of, what are, sort of what sort of the norm was. I grew up, my dad was a policeman. So there was like, originally when I was a kid, I wanted to be a policeman. I went on to, be one on TV and movies, but, but there wasn't anybody that was, sort of this artist or, that was an actor that was working in movies or doing any of that kind of stuff. And so, so for me to be able to, to be that inspiration for people to see that even with addiction, even with sort of mental health stuff, that I was able to, sort of break free from that and get to the other side. And, and by hard work and, trusting in, the universe, my higher power to just, keep doing what's the next indicated step, I'm getting closer and closer to, who I truly am, who my true authentic self is, and, what my purpose is in the world, and, what I'm supposed to create, and all that is still, I think, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out, what it is I'm supposed to do next.
Yeah, and look, just quickly saying to that, I know Doug's fighting at the bit to share something with you that you just shared that he can relate to about the father's career. Yeah, it's we try to figure things out. Whereas if I try to figure out where I've lost my license and my card, I would never figure it out. So right. I just let it be. I might never have found it. Maybe I did drop it somewhere in the street, but not figuring it out and being at peace about it and going, okay, it's gone, or it's going to turn up, and it turned up, and it didn't cause me any stress. So I'm not saying that that's easy to do, but if you don't try to figure things out sometimes and just take the steps, the baby steps, the actions, something will occur. Something will happen.
And Andy says that to me all the time. He's always telling me, Doug, don't go too fast. Remember the tortoise and the hare. Take baby steps. Because the thing about me is sometimes I want the result right away. And I don't take the steps that I need to take.
Yeah. You and the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doug's dad was a policeman as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. And he was a very accomplished cop, by the way, as a police officer, and he was a good detective.
Oh, well, detective as well. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so was my dad. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
funny.
Really cool.
That's
yeah,
great.
my mom was later in my life became a deputy sheriff, and my brother is a policeman and a fireman up in Sunnyvale in California. They usually do a 6 months on, 6 months off, and right now he's just full time. He's a fireman. He drives the engine, and he's
wow, man, that's great. That's awesome. Well, no visiting your family with any priors?
Priors? Yeah. You don't want to do anything like that.
That's funny. I'll just tell you one funny story before we finish. When I was in Melbourne, because a lot of people may recognise I was on Sons of Anarchy, played 3 months, the Irish president, right? I actually got that role when I was at the Beverly Hills Playhouse.
Yeah.
But I just remember I was going to the immigration building in Melbourne, Australia, to get my passport sorted out again to come back to America. And there's 2 federal police officers who are different to the ordinary cops, right? I was standing there and I rolled up on my bike and I saw him looking at me. And then I went into the building. He's still looking at me. And then I went, I know exactly what he's thinking. He's thinking, I've arrested this guy somewhere, right? and when I get in, I'm buying a coffee and he was standing beside me. And I turned around and said, hey, mate, don't mean to be rude, but can I ask you a question? I said, you think you've arrested me somewhere, don't you? And he looked and went, yeah. He goes, I'm trying to win. I went, Sons of Anarchy. He goes, oh my God, that's where he said, I love that show. He goes, but I'm looking at you, I'm thinking, where have I arrested this guy? And I love it.
So funny.
It was the best. Like, we just broke down. He's a cop. I'm this. We just 2 guys having a huge laugh over the coffee. It was
that's
so
great.
Funny.
I love that.
So funny.
Great.
Well, look, we have run out of time, but not run out of seeing you again, Mark. We're definitely going to get you back on in a few months to see what's occurred and what's happened. And, sharing a bit more of your story. It's been really inspirational. And Doug's story, inspirational. It's so awesome. Thanks, mate, for taking the time. I know you've got to go. Yeah. We're about to head off to an interview with Fen Dog, who's the guy who looks like Ned Kelly, our bush ranger, who's walking from one end of Australia to the other for mental health. So we're about to go interview him. So it's been great. Love doing this. Love hearing people's stories, and yours is, as empowering.
thank you. Thanks for having me on. And, I just love what you two are doing. And I just, Doug, you're such an inspiration, I think, to so many people. And it's just really brilliant that you're doing this. So thanks for sharing your truth and everything that you're doing. And Andy, you know how much I love you. You're fantastic. You're such a mensch and you have such a huge heart. So I'm really grateful to know you as well.
Thanks, bro. I do remember coming from Australia to America for $200 to be in your film, and then I flew
Oh my
over.
God, you were so fantastic. We needed you, and you knew that. We needed that.
Not about the money. It's not about the money.
No.
Beautiful.
All right, guys.
Take us out. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it, mate.
All right, everyone. We'd like to thank Mark for appearing on the show. Do not drink soda, and we'll see you next. And we'll see you next time for the next episode of Relentless and Unstoppable.